Hello, this is Victor. I'm going to do a new unit review. This is the time for the Cultist of Chaos. After doing the elite units from the Grey Knight Codex, I wanted to see how the Cultists of Chaos are compared to elite units, and then do a comparison between elite and basic units like the Cultists of Chaos. That is one of the lowest or the less skill units in the battlefield. So in this review, I will compare different configurations of cultists and also different unit sizes. I will also include the plague zombies that are part or is a specialty of the cultists if you take Typhus, and I will also consider if they are undercover. And I will compare how they perform compared to one of the most elite units that are the Dread Knight and also some other Grey Knight units, and I will compare also as well with the other troop in the Codex of Chaos of Chaos Space Marines, that are the Space Marines, the basic Space Marines. And as I normally do, let's start looking at the shooting against infantry. So first, I take the configuration, one of the configurations with flamers, to see how the flame, is adding the flamer to the Cultist of Chaos. And then I take another configuration that is the basic that comes in the Dark Vengeance, that is the one with shotgun for the leader and heavy stabber and all the unit equipped with autoguns instead of pistols. As you can see, this configuration is more efficient in shooting, even when we divide by the points, so the points that you are investing in shooting are regarded. So you will receive this, you will use a good use of these points. Also interesting to see that this unit that is the best in shooting from the as average from the Cultists of Chaos, they have better shooting efficiency than the Chaos Space Marines. The reason is with 140 points you can have 2.5 of these units, meaning that you have much more shots than the Space Marines, and this will compensate the lack of precision and strength of the weapons. So interesting here to see that in shooting, if we go for autoguns, they are quite good against infantry. And when I do the comparison, at short range, they are even better than the purifiers. At medium range, purifiers are better if they remain stationary. If they move, is not that the case. So here we have the cultists with autoguns are not a bad unit to shoot infantry. If we now analyze the ability to shoot monsters, I was also surprised that the performance is not very bad, even compared to the unit with plasma from the Chaos Space Marines. So we see that the against monsters, they have more or less the same efficiency, and against flying monsters, this even better the cultists. They are almost the same points, but are slightly better the cultists than the Chaos Space Marines. Again, when you shooting flying monsters, your skill is have not any impact on the shooting, and it's only the strength. And as we put much shots with the cultists, because we will have much people shooting, we have more probabilities to make a wound. If we look to normal monsters creatures, normally the Space Marines with plasma are slightly more efficient thanks to the plasmas. But if we compare them to the Chaos Space Marines without any special weapon, we see that the cultists are better than them. And the only unit that is better than the cultists with autoguns are the purifiers with 4 siege cannons. So cultist is not a bad unit in terms of shooting infantry, and is not good against monsters, but is not worse than other units that we will think that are better. Of course, in all the cases, if we look the ones equipped with pistol and close combat weapon, the shooting is very poor. It's only short range. It's not very strong. You have very little shooting because it's only one shot per guy. So the only case that the cultists are decent or are good in shooting is when they have autoguns. The big lack in shooting from the cultists is against vehicles. The weapons cannot damage vehicles, and they cannot have heavy weapons or special weapons in the units. So cultists in shooting are only made to shoot infantry. Yeah, you can have the heavy stubber and you can damage armor 10, but you see that the ability is almost zero, so make no sense to have the heavy stubber or to shoot vehicles. It's only at this very measure. So cultists with autoguns are good against light infantry, are quite good against heavy infantry, and are not bad against monsters. But against vehicles, they don't have any chance. If we look at the overall score in shooting, so the total, we see that the score of the cultists with autoguns are almost the same than the Space Marines with plasma guns. So they lack flexibility. They are going to be better than against light infantry than the plasma guns, and the plasma guns are going to be better against vehicles and monsters. But in average, when we add everything, they are on the same type of score. Of course, you cannot depend only on cultists, because then you will lack heavy weapons to be able to shoot vehicles in an efficient way. The only unit that is really better than them, or one of the units, is when we look at units specialized in shooting, like the purifiers. Then they are double in efficiency than the cultist. But I was quite surprised to see that the cultist with autoguns is not a bad choice, as I was thinking before, and they are quite decent in shooting compared even to the Chaos Space Marines. And then we arrive to the resistance or resilience of the unit, and we see that cultist is the most resilient unit of the ones I analyzed up to now. So this type of low quality units are the most resistant. The reason is the points are so low that for the same points you have so many bodies that doesn't matter how well equipped are the elites. You will survive more having lots of infantry. The only case where the light infantry is suffering more is when you look resistance against common weapons or against anti-infantry weapons. But once we start analyzing them against special weapons, anti-tank, anti-infantry, normally this type of trash infantry, of garbage infantry, are better than the elites. This makes them very useful to hold objectives, and especially if they can hold the objective in cover. Also, here is important to check what the zombies are adding, the plague zombies. And if you see at the bottom of the table, I'm comparing a unit of, we have the score of a unit of 10 plague zombies and compare to a unit of 10 cultists, and we see that the resistance is almost double. So especially against anti-infantry shooting. Against other type of shootings, the zombies are not adding a lot. They have toughness 3, so anything that is instant killing, you don't get the benefit of the feel no pain. If we put these zombies in cover, then we see that the unit can be very resilient. It's resisting, so a unit of the zombies are resisting 4 times more than a Chaos Space Marine for the same points. What that means, if I take 200 points of Chaos Space Marines and I take 200 points of zombies, I will resist 4 times more shooting with the zombies. So really, cultists will do very well the role of holding objectives. We see that the autogun, because it's more expensive, they are more resilient. So normally, the more we equip them, we drop more in resistance of the unit. We see also all the units with marks are dropping in resistance, and if we think to take Thench to add resistance to the unit, is not worth it. We see that you increase a little bit more the resistance, but maybe it's the only case that is working. If we add toughness, we see that the resistance is with toughness 1 is less than the cultist. Even if we compare, for example, 10 cultists with the mark of stench, the score is the same. What that means? That the resistance at the end is the same. They will resist a little bit more against anti-tank weapons, but it will be but it's not paying back. So you pay the points you pay are compensated, so they are not adding resistance. If we look the same for Nurgle, we see that it's not worth to pay the points of Nurgle, because the points you are paying is not adding more efficiency in terms of resistance to the unit. So I will say the two marks here that are designed to increase the resistance of the unit, once you're balanced with the point cost, are not adding resistance, because the points of this unit is so low that it's not worth to pay this type of marks that in other cases can add something, like in the Chaos Space Marines. So as in the previous slide, we have seen that the cheap units are very good in resistance because they can add a lot of bodies at low cost of points. When we go into close combat, we have to be careful, because normally elite units like Terminators or even the Dread Knight and other units will be better in close combat than these cheap units, especially because they will be able to resist the hits better than the opponent, and they are able to put more attacks into the enemies. So, and on top of that, if you lose the close combat, you have the risk of failing the leadership test, and then the full unit is completely destroyed. So we have to say that cheap units can stack in combat elite units if they have a good leadership to compensate the lack of ability in close combat. But if not, you have to be careful with the cultist especially. If you are assault with Terminators, doesn't matter, you can have a unit of 30 or 35 cultists, they will not be able to resist. Most likely they will lose the close combat, and then the Terminators will ram down all the cultists, or will they make run out of the battlefield. So normally the weak point of these cheap units are the close combat, unless you can give them fearless or stubborn and high leadership. In that way, the unit is able to resist casualties and stack the elite opponent unit in combat for more than one turn. If we look at the numbers, we see that normally the weak point of the cheap units are they will receive a lot of damage. We see that all the numbers are in red, so meaning that they will receive a lot of damage in close combat. They are able also to do some damage in close combat, and sometimes more damage than some elite units, because they have a lot of attacks. But as a result, they will keep losing the close combat, and then this means that they have to pass a leadership test. So all these cultists, although they seem to be equipped to go in close combat, it's better not to or to avoid the close combat and use them just as a cheap unit to hold the objective, or add autoguns and use as a cheap unit with shooting capacity. We also see that, of course, having close combat, when we equip them with autoguns, the offense power is dropping a lot, almost to half of the value. If we look now the ability to assault vehicles, forget about assaulting vehicles with these cheap units. They will not do any damage, and only in the case here of Khorne, they will be able to do damage to vehicles with armor 10, compared to other units like Space Marines that with the crack grenades they can do more damage to more type of vehicles. So they are not suitable for assault any vehicle, and normally they will never cause damage to vehicles. I forgot to mention previously that the extra points that you will pay for Slaanesh or Khorne are not rewarded. So it doesn't matter that you add Furious Charge or you add +1 to initiative. It's better to invest these points in more bodies. So as you can, as a conclusion, we see that all the upgrades in form of marks are not adding value to the unit. To wrap up a little bit all this video, so we can see that the big pros of the cultists are the high resistance, thanks that they are very cheap and they can put a lot of bodies and they make very good to hold objectives. I recommend to add Flammer because then you will can cause some damage to your opponents when you are assault, and autoguns will improve the shooting capacity and is the only upgrade I think is worth to pay. All the other upgrades in form of mark are not adding any value. Zombies are also very good if you want just a unit that is holding objective and not to do any other thing in the full battle, because even in close combat they will not be able to do damage to the enemies, as they lose one attack because they don't have close combat plus pistol. They only have one close combat weapon, the zombies. So, and then watchouts is they are not they are unable to damage vehicles, or they have very little chances to damage any vehicles. We have to be careful with the close combat. We can make big blocks for close combat, but then we have to reinforce them with something that is giving them fearless. And the best way to do that, if we have Typhus and we want to use zombies. If not, we need to use a Zerot or something like that that will add more cost to the unit. So yeah, you can use the cultists together with some hero from the Space Marines to give them fearless, and then it will be the hero of the Space Marines who will do the damage, and all the cultists what they will be just bodies to receive the damage from the opponent units. This is the only way to use them in close combat. If you don't use something to enhance the leadership, they will lose the close combat, they will fail the leadership test, and they will be run out. So that's all for this video. I just want to thank you for watching. Please leave your comment, what you think, your opinion, any question that you have. Like if you like it, subscribe if you're not subscribed. Thanks a lot for watching, and see you again later. Bye.